Robert Greenberg was born and raised in Ottawa, the son of Gilbert Greenberg, who was one of the founding brothers of the Minto Group. Robert worked at Minto for over 2 decades alongside his brothers and cousins. He last held the position of Executive Vice President of Minto and remains on the company's Business Advisory Committee. Robert is an avid fisherman and has launched American Baitworks, an innovative American-based fishing tackle company that provides custom manufacturing of fishing lures. He's the proud father of 2 adult children and divides his time between Ottawa and Florida. Along with being a strong supporter of numerous philanthropic causes, both as part of Minto and as an individual, Robert has been an instrumental volunteer, fundraiser, and donor within Ottawa's Jewish community. Robert was previously a chair of the Jewish Federation of Ottawa's annual campaign and worked tirelessly to ensure that the campaign was a huge success. He's a dedicated fundraiser and born leader, and with a ready smile and willingness to lend a hand, something he learned from his parents and has brought forward to teach his children. So, welcome, Robert. Right. Wow. So, in the non-Jewish community, they always are quite envious of the Jewish community and their fundraising abilities, right? So in Ottawa, it's roughly 15,000 families, and they raise $4.5 million a year, which you translate that to United Way, and you go on a prorated basis. We're way beyond what they should be.
Right.
And so I think a lot of that is that inherent being taught about philanthropy as a young child, and that's just ingrained in everything that you do. So what do you want your legacy to be?
I'm a pretty private person, so I don't have any aspirations beyond, my immediate family and close friends. And so 100 years from now, I'll be a nobody, and I'm fine for that. I think when, hopefully I don't pass for quite some time, but, if they think of me or whatever, that I was generally, I was good to them, and I was, born into a wealthy family, and I like to think I did my part to maintain and enhance it, and tried to follow in my parents' footsteps of tzedakah. And
while many people think of tzedakah as charity, the word actually means justice, specifically doing the right things by helping people or causes in need. There are lots of ways to do tzedakah, but the most common way is giving money to the poor or other worthwhile causes. Tzedakah can also include donating food, clothing, and other necessities, or volunteering one's time to assist the needy.
And being good to a big part of I guess my legacy for the people that I've either worked for Minto or work in the company, that, that they worked for a company that had solid business and people ethics, and put people first. I mean, the one thing that you haven't asked me, the most important thing I think for a canvasser to be prepared is to understand what's important to the person they're canvassing. So if you're going out to fundraise for Jewish Federation, and there's, let's say, 30 organizations or whatever that are recipients of the whatever, try and find out what's important to that person, and then tailor your canvas to it. So, for instance, I was able to secure that gift because I knew that gentleman's son played basketball, and there was going to be a great basketball court at the JCC. Right. And that was the hot button. That's what turned that gentleman on to giving more than probably what he had intended, and making him happy about giving it. So, so understand what's important to the people that you're canvassing, and try and tailor your ask to what's important to them. The other thing is, like, even people who have a track record of giving, I'm going to say what I might say might sound contradictory, but they might appear to be generous gifts, but they don't give with an open hand. And that was something that was taught to me by Rabbi Bolkat. He shared a book with me, and he basically talked, about when you give, don't give begrudgingly, give with an open hand. So like, that's also, if you can sort of, if you're preparing your canvas, and you need to discern, if the person is an open-hander or not. And I can tell you, the open-handers, you have to be careful, because they'll give more than they can.
Yes.
And you don't want to ask people to give more than they can. Like, it's not, there are lots of overly generous people that make commitments and they pay them, but they can't afford them.
Right.
So and then the other way, like, there's other people that I remember coming up to me as volunteers over the years and say, listen, Robert, I can't afford to make a generous gift, but I'll work my butt off for you. I'll canvas and do because that I can do. I can give time, but I don't have the money to give.
Right.
And that's wonderful also. So it's important to try and determine if people are giving with an open hand or not, and tailor things that way, and also get a good understanding for what the needs are. Because, if someone has school-age kids, you can't go in there talking about the old age home. You have to familiarize yourself with with where the money's going for education, et cetera, and vice versa. If the person doesn't have kids, they aren't going to school, that might not be their hot button. It might be something else. So it's common sense, but some people, anyways.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because some of the canvases obviously go really, really well, and some of them go not so well, but they have a good result. Mm-hmm. I remember years ago you called me, and there was a donor who probably went up by 50% of his gift, and it wound up being a 6-figure gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, yeah. And I said, wow, this is really good. And he says, Jack, he doesn't feel great about it. I don't feel great about it.
Oh.
And let's just move on.
Oh.
So it was, kind of a mentality where that person was like, okay, Robert's coming, I do business with his family or whatever the case may be. I kind of have to do it. And you used that leverage a bit to our success, but it wasn't to go and help you, right?
No,
it was to go and help the community.
100%.
It wasn't anything personally, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
so sometimes they have those
a couple times. I don't remember the one you're speaking of. I always tried to keep things separate if I could, but I guess in this situation I couldn't. I mean, it's like you get involved in the emotion of it or whatever, and now that I'm removed or whatever, and 2 steps removed, you can sort of look back and things, and and sometimes, I mean, we would have our meetings or whatever where you might try to rate the donors, what they're capable of doing. And the challenge with, it has to be done because we have to raise as much money as we can for whatever the cause. But at the same time, you have to be careful. You don't want to embarrass anyone. You don't know what their real situation is. And you can't take it too personally. And it's easy for me, 20 years removed from being campaign chair, to say, try not to be emotionally involved, because I can tell you the emotion that I had is what drove me. But, you need that passion. But with that passion, then the highs become really high and the lows can become pretty low. And you really don't want to do that. Now, I'm sure, Jack, you've matured a lot over your last 20 years, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm sure there's lots of things that you've learned to sort of, not take as personally as you might have 20 years ago. So that would be one thing also. You can get so caught up in what you're doing. Sometimes you have to take a step back and just realize your perception of what people's abilities to give or whatever might not be the truth.
Right. So, Right. And, there's no way that you can know what's important to everyone. You don't know if they're taking care of an infirm parent or, a cousin, uncle, whatever the case may be. 100%. So, yeah. 100%. And so one of my last questions that I've been asking folks is, as we've been sitting here in this kind of virtual reality for the last couple of years, is people have been trying to figure out what to watch on TV. And it's football season, so it's a no-brainer at our house. Right. But when it's not football season, it quite could become World War III as to what to watch, because I just can't watch another home renovation show. Okay. So what are you watching?
I like to watch sports. So I'm a huge Blue Jays fan, and so it's good to be a Blue Jays fan right now. I like the Raptors. And on Netflix or some of the other streaming services, I actually quite like watching foreign shows. So I've watched quite a few Spanish, crime type shows. And if there's something from the Middle East or whatever, I'm watching this Lebanese soap opera. It's got 4 seasons right now of 30 shows in it. And it's very well done. It can be a little corny, but it's the show, it's called Al Haiba, and it's a clash. Part of it's a clash between old generation and new generation and culture, just cultural changes and stuff like that. So I enjoy, looking, watching some foreign type things. So that's how I'd answer that.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time. You're still my favorite Greenberg. And I hope to see you soon in person.
You got it. Thanks for allowing me to share my thoughts with you and your viewers.
Thank you, Robert. Hi, folks. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here.